So, in this bag is all of the gear that I just carried 270 kilometers across the Sahara Desert in the latest 40th edition of the Marathon des Sables. Each bit of kit has rightfully earned its place. Some items I learned were absolutely essential, while others I learned I could have probably left behind. So if you're looking for recommendations or you're trying to plan your own Marathon des Sables kit list, or just curious to see what you pack for a multi-stage ultra marathon like the Marathon des Sables, this video is for you. Let's dive straight in. So first of all, just to start with a disclaimer, this is a very subjective review of a kit list. This is my review of what worked for me. This is not a gear review channel. I have neither the expertise nor the budget for it to be so. That said, I did put a lot of work into researching, testing and comparing items that you're going to see in a moment. So I think there's some learnings I made along the way that hopefully could be value to you. I'm going to start by breaking this down into the items that I was wearing, my race kit, and then the items that I was carrying in the pack. So sort of working from the head down. Just started with a cap, nothing special. It's got an orangey dusty hue even after a wash thanks to the desert conditions. There we have the buff, very straightforward, nothing complicated about that, but quite essential in my opinion. You'd use it to shield off the sand when you're dealing with windy conditions. Also doubles up as an eye mask if you're trying to have a nap during the day, so quite helpful. Definitely bring one of those along. For sunglasses, I believe this is now part of the mandatory kit to bring sunglasses. Any pair of running sunglasses will work. You don't need to blow your budget on these. I did, however, and I went quite fancy and got these Julbo photochromatic lenses, which actually work quite well, I have to be honest. They were categories 3 through 5, which just meant as the sun was rising, they would gradually increase their protection as it got brighter. Very happy with those, they did the trick. So next we have the shirt that I was wearing. Now this is probably the bit of kit that impressed me the most. This is the Janji Sun Chaser, I believe. Did an incredible job, not just keeping me protected from the sun because it's got its long sleeves, so it's got a little hood that did a great job of keeping the sun off my neck and also protected me from the elements when it got a bit sandy and dusty. I could not recommend this one enough actually. I was really impressed with this. There was no chafing, fit very comfortably. It kept me warm when it got cool at night, but also kept me cool during the day and kept me well protected. So super happy with this. That did a tremendous job. Running shorts, yeah, just any pair of shorts, just something you're comfortable with. This is not the time to be experimenting, so I had these Nike trail shorts that I was perfectly happy with. Also, as part of my race kit, I made the decision to bring running poles. So this is a very personal choice. If you're used to running with poles, then obviously it makes a lot of sense. If it's something you're completely new with, make sure that you practice beforehand. Otherwise, you're just carrying these things across the desert, and that just feels a bit unnecessary. I got a lot of use out of this. It's not incredibly technical terrain, but it did help me just sort of slog through the soft sand. These are the, what are these now? Black Diamond Z poles. Did a great job. I have these little feet that I attached to the bottom that also just added a little bit more resilience. But they were great. Really happy with them. And then of course to combine with them, I did wear the Black Diamond gloves, acknowledging again that you're going to be doing, in my case, about 40 hours of running with poles. You're going to have sand and dirt on your hands. That is going to accumulate over time and give you blisters. So these really just did help with the grip and make sure that I felt quite protected throughout. Now we're getting to the interesting territory. Actually, no, first of all, just acknowledging, yes, I had underwear. Again, nothing fancy. Wear something familiar that you made sure that you've done some long distance runs in so that you don't get any surprises there. And now into the more interesting stuff. So we're getting into the feet territory. For that, for socks, I bought 2 pairs of the Salomon Ultra Trail something or other. I'm not sure what they were, but they did a terrific job. Again, well practiced in these, so there was no problems, no surprises along the way. So on the topic of feet, we're going to want to talk about shoes. Yes, you're going to want to wear shoes on this one. I highly recommend that you do. And now this is a topic that probably deserves its own video. And again, there's a lot of other experts out there who will have much better opinions about this. My guidance or my opinion was, again, wear something that's familiar. It's not the most technical terrain. You are doing a lot of hours over sand and hard rock. but you'll see a lot of people out there in Salomon, S-Lab, Ultra, Dust, whatever they are. That's, I think, fit to purpose for these things with the built-in gaiters. But you also saw people out there wearing road running shoes. So whatever you're comfortable in, you're going to be doing a lot of hours out there. So make sure it's against something that you've run with before. For me, that was these are the Nike Sagama 2, I believe. This is genuinely, I think, my 5th pair of these shoes. I'm absolutely in love with them. They're fantastic. And I found that they work well on both trail as well as a little bit the sort of hybrid, gravelly conditions. So for me, this was an absolute no-brainer. I was always going to go with these. They look quite worn now. They were basically brand new, although you do recommend wearing them in for a couple 100 kilometers before you take part in the event. I had them fitted for gaiters via Kevin from Alex Shoe Repairs in the UK. If you're UK based, absolutely recommend it. Top professional, did a great job. Very, very good service. I was able to have the shoes newly delivered to his shop, and he posted them back to me. Does international shipping as well, so I can't recommend his service highly enough. Did a terrific job. Gaiters we bought separately. These were Raid Light. Raid Light gaiters. They did an okay job. I have to be honest, after the first day, I had a couple of thorny bushes that I ran through that gave me holes. So already I was grateful that somebody in my camp had a sewing kit that I could borrow just to repair that. But other than that, the shoes did a terrific job. I think I had a small blister on one of the days, but for the rest, I was very lucky. I didn't have any problems. And then just to add another layer of protection, what I decided to run with were these calf shields from Salomon. They weigh absolutely nothing. And I had that basically just wrapped over the top of where the gaiters would go into, just as another level of protection. And they did a terrific job. So absolutely no problems there. So that worked out well. So that's it for the race kit stuff. Moving on to the pack and its contents. Starting with the pack itself. Now, you're going to see most of the runners are participating with the WA MDS recommended pack. I think most people have no complaints about that. Looks great, nice branding, and it seems to do the job. It's very fit for purpose. I personally had a preference for wearing a Salomon pack because I run with a lot of their hydration vests, and I'm a big fan of how they fit. So I was looking basically into Salomon as a solution. Unfortunately, the biggest running pack that they made is the 20-litre, I don't know the name, pack. Which when I filled up the main compartment with just the food alone, it already basically met the capacity of the pack. So in a panic, I went and ordered the Phantom 25, which is a great pack, and allowed me to fit a lot more things into it. Whereas Salomon, I think, talk about 20 litres being 20 litres, including all the side pockets and compartments. The Phantom 25, I think the main compartment, the main vessel is 25 litres, and then you've got all the additional pockets and things to support that. I felt that was too big, and knowing myself, if I have space for stuff in my pack, I'm going to be filling it up with unnecessary things. So being a bit Goldilocks about the situation, I decided I was going to take the Salomon bag, and I was going to supplement it with, let's see if I can find it. Right, well, I can't seem to find it, but here's a picture of it anyway. It was the front pack, worked really well actually. It gave me another 4 or 5 litres, I think 4 litres of storage space, and basically became my day pack. So everything I needed for the day, my food, my supplements, my road book, my compass, all, the things that you probably want to have more accessible, basically came into the front pack, and then everything else that I didn't need until we got back to base camp or onto the next location was in the main bag. It also conveniently managed to attach to a couple of hooks that we have built into this strap. So even though it wasn't fit for purpose for this bag, it worked really well. So no complaints there. The challenge that I faced though, because of the water requirements, you need to carry it or be able to have the capacity of 1.5 litres of water at all time. The Salomon bottles, obviously the soft flasks only really support 500 mils each, so that wasn't going to be enough, and I wasn't obviously going to be carrying a bladder. In addition to that, I did want hard flasks. The risk of these, of course, is that they're a bit of a faff to refill at the stations, and also I was obviously scared of just puncturing one of them and then losing the use after that. So I left these behind, and what I did was I took the bottles that came with the Phantom OM 25, or any equivalent bottle that would work. It was 750 ml hard flasks, and they did actually manage to fit into the front pouches. They were a little bit snug, and they felt like they were sticking into you a little bit at some points, but for the most part, they did a great job. but it's super handy if you're doing shakes, so protein shakes and all the rest of it. So I had 2 of these, 1.5 litres between the 2 of them, and that was my water storage solution. So that was really good. Moving on, what else? So one of the biggest items in here is my sleeping bag. This is the Sea to Summit Spark, 1 season, 7 degrees, whatever. Sleeping bag, did a terrific job. You see a lot of these around camp, to be honest. I think a lot of people have the same idea. Super compact, very light, and does a good job for the sort of temperatures that you're dealing with over there. Yeah, no complaints there. We have here all the little nitty bits and pieces. This is going to take up quite some space. So where to begin with? Well, I'm just going to go through these rapid fire in a way. Your emergency blankets, mandatory kits. You've got your passport and compass, mandatory kit, compass that I never used, probably wouldn't know how to use if I did need it. My passport. I did take a small bottle of hand sanitizer. This is maybe an unnecessary weight, but I did enjoy the benefit of feeling a little bit clean from being able to use that. They do have some hand sanitizers at the toilet stations. I brought 2 packets of these soap suds. So we managed to find a way to wash some of your clothes using some of the 5 litre or one of the gallon water bottles that you receive. You cut that open, put your clothes in with some water, mix it around with some of these, and believe me, after a couple of days of sweating and feeling sandy and sweaty in the desert, being able to wash your clothes feels incredible. In addition to that, speaking of washing, I took some of these. These are compressed towels. You just add water and they expand really rather well. These were basically what I used to bathe myself. So just soak one of these in water, wash yourself down. Worked really well. I would usually use 1 or 2 and then combine it with, I've got here the Sea to Summit Wilderness soap pockets. These are little soap sheets, very, very light. They do a very minimal job, but believe me, a small thing like washing yourself goes a long way to building morale and making yourself feel good again. For the toothbrush, now you hear about people cutting their toothbrushes in half. It is true. I've taken here the head component of of a travel toothbrush, which did the trick. It looks ridiculous and it sounds ridiculous that you're taking all these measures to cut a gram here, a gram there, but it does add up, and you will be surprised how much of a difference a few extra 100 grams makes over the course of an entire week. So do yourself a favor, cut weight where you can. And another way that I did that, instead of bringing a tube of toothpaste with me, I managed to find these toothpaste tablets. Brought just enough that I needed in a little Ziploc bag. Didn't taste as nice, wasn't as refreshing perhaps as the toothpaste experience, but again, managed to save myself some weight with that. I've got here alcohol swabs. There's a few more compressed towels. Alcohol swabs that I would use if I needed to wipe anything down. €200, mandatory kits. Single note is lighter by a gram or 2 than multiple notes, so again I went out my way to find a 200 gram note. We've got my antiseptic cream, which luckily I didn't need. A lighter, which I didn't use. Signaling mirror. I managed to find the lightest, smallest signaling mirror in the world, and that seemed to do the job. I didn't need it. Headlamp. Now this deserves a bit of discussion as well. I had about 4 or 5 headlamps here that I could have made a choice from, and was researching all sorts of things to do with wattage and ohms and everything per gram. The lightest option that I had available to me would have probably been the Petzl ICO Core something or other, which does a great job, but I just don't like the way that it collapses, and I feel like it takes up a lot of space. So, oops. In the end, I went with this variation of the Phoenix headlamp, and I took the battery options, including 3 spare batteries, which is also part of the mandatory kit. Never needed to replace the batteries, but you will be using a headlamp, even if your watch has got a torch on it. It's mandatory kit. You will need to bring it, and you will be using it as well if you're getting up in the night to go to the bathroom, or even just in the morning when you get up, it's dark and you're getting yourself ready. So be sensible. Bring something that you can use that's comfortable. I have lip balm SPF 50. I had contact lenses, so I had daily lenses with me, so just enough for the week. Yeah, no real discussion around that. And as a backup, just in case something was to happen to those, or indeed I didn't want to wear lenses, I did bring a pair of my prescription glasses, just so I have those on hand as well. So that's something that not everybody will need, but worked for me. Your mandatory kit knife. which, to be honest, was more useful than I expected it to be. This is pretty much the standard model that everybody goes for, the Victorinox, and it's still got lots of dust and sand in it. Yeah, make sure you've got that with you. They do check the kits, and they do spot checks as well, so make sure that you're not discarding anything along the way that you shouldn't be doing. Now, here we get into a couple of the luxury items that perhaps I didn't need to bring. The first being an MP3 player. This I just found on Amazon. It came with an advertised 70-hour battery life. You've got an SD card slot so you can load up everything that you want on there, music, audiobooks, all the rest of it. I found it most useful at night when I was trying to go for sleep. I listened to some music, there's some meditative music on there. So that was the only reason that I would have used that, but other than that, I didn't need that. That was not a need to have. Now this is definitely the item that I consider the biggest sacrifice to weight. This is the GoPro with the anamorphic lens for the great cinematic effect. If you haven't seen my video on the Marathon des Sables experience, it's hopefully worth checking out. It gives you an idea of what the full week looks like. I've included here the GoPro Lite, GoPro clamp, which basically became my selfie stick, because I would attach it to one of the running poles to capture wider shots, but for the most part I was just carrying it, holding it. This is heavy because in addition to that I carried 5 spare batteries, or 5 batteries in total, 4 spare batteries and an SD card. I used 4 full batteries over the course of the week to capture quite a few hours of content, but this is heavy. So this was definitely an unnecessary luxury, but I'm super glad that I brought it because I got some great footage and some great memories out of it too. So for me, that was a worth bringing. Won't be for everybody, but that's something that could have stayed behind. In addition to that, I have the road book, which is mandatory, or the mat. I brought these KT tape strips. I had about 6 of them, and I would only need to replace them once every couple of days. I had them basically over my shoulders where I knew that there was potential chafing issues with the pack, just to prevent that. So I had some of those with me. Your bib number obviously is a requirement. I've got one of the bib numbers in the frame over here. Great idea as a souvenir, by the way, and to show off to friends that come over to the house. And then I had my spoon for food, which will be the next topic that we talk about. And last but not least here, we've got the safety pins. So on the topic of food, now obviously most of the food was consumed over the course of the week. In fact, everything was consumed over the course of the week. I could do a whole video on food alone, but I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly on what my strategy was. So there's plenty of good advice out there. There's plenty of nutritionists that will give you recommendations in terms of how to keep yourself fueled for the course of the week. My learning was, first of all, you're always going to be running at a calorie deficit. So there's a minimum requirement of 2,000 calories per day. I was running at, basically I'd packed with me about 2,500 calories a day, or 2,400 calories a day. My Garmin estimated that I was consuming around 4,500 to 5,000 calories a day on average, about 8,500 calories on the long day. So there's no way that you could actually replenish all of that. I lost about 3 kilos over the course of the week. You just basically need to think about what's a sensible amount to bring with you. This is the heaviest component of your race kit. I think it was about 4 kilos of my race kit was just food, and that was just for 2,500 calories a day. So you need to be wise about it. And you will be making sacrifices. My approach to it, though, basically was that each day I had this. So this would have been like effectively a day pack. It looks a little bit like this. I had these fire pot meals. I would normally have a breakfast, an oatmeal breakfast, and then some sort of a dinner pack. I actually removed the contents of these bags because the sachets alone weigh about 20-25 grams. So I removed those and put them into Ziploc bags to save on space and weight. You got the mandatory vegetable stock cubes, which, to be honest, I was just chewing on for the salt and the nutrients and wasn't too bad. I had these Pro Meal bars for during the race, as well as Cliff bars during the race. Also during the race, gels, I used the GU Roctane Energy ones. They've got, I think, substantially more, 2-3 times more amino acids, sodium and so forth than the regular standard GU gels. Quite good. I'd also start each day with endurance race fuel from Tailwind. Sometimes I would have a malt and energy drink with me as well. On a couple of days, just because the The weight to calorie ratio versus the goose made more sense. I had the Precision Fuel sachet, and then at the end of each race day, I would have a recovery mix from Tailwind as well. So that would basically be the pre, during, and after. Also during the race, I had about 4 tubes of Precision Hydration, the 1500 variant from them, just to replenish my salts. These were super useful. So I'd always make sure I'd have one of these bottles with hydration and one with water. And that leaves us with the clothing items. So I've already covered what I was wearing. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, I was wearing as a watch the Garmin Enduro 3, which did a terrific job. It was fully charged at the start of the week, and I think it used about 40% of battery on full power mode, so full GPS, full heart rate reading, all the rest of it, over 40 hours of running, 7 days, never needed a recharge. In addition to that, so spare clothing that I had, and I just see the baby monitor going off, so time is running out. This is a down jacket from Nordisk. I definitely recommend bringing this. It does get chilly at night. You will find yourself thinking, yeah, you're either wearing a sleeping bag around your shoulders, but this actually came in quite handy to making sure you felt comfortable. So that did a great job. I also had a windbreaker. This is from Montbell. It was super light. I did only use it on one occasion. That was at the night stage of the long day run when it got a bit chilly and was quite windy. I found that it was helpful for that, but I probably could have lived without it if I'm completely honest. Slippers. Now, you're going to want to wear something comfortable at the end of each day, and you're not going to be walking around barefoot. There are far too many thorns and sharp stones around the camp. So I definitely recommend bringing some sort of slippers. You could, of course, just loosen the laces of your running shoes, but you want your feet to probably breathe a little bit. I did test lots of different variations, did a lot of research into Z-packs and I can't remember the other variants now, but like many different brands, tried to find the good weight to comfort ratio. In the end, I went with some dirt cheap hotel slippers that you find on Amazon, and these did a terrific job. I mean, by the end of the week, you're throwing them away. They've done their job, but I wouldn't need anything more than that. They weighed nothing and cost nothing and did everything that they were supposed to. And then I did have, in addition to that, the spare pair of running socks that I would wash out. I had a spare shirt, which was basically my camp shirt, to be honest. I'd run it basically in the Janji all week and then have something light to put on when I got back to camp. Spare pair of underwear. And that basically covers... it doesn't cover everything. I forgot to mention what I slept on. So this is not the actual mat that I slept on. The actual mat that I slept on got left in Morocco. It was totally torn to shreds. I had... what was it called? Yeah, anyway, it was quite similar to this. This basically did its job. It was light enough to not be an interference, comfortable enough for you to get some sleep, but don't expect to be rolling around or be comfortable in all sorts of positions. There were people that decided to take air mattresses, and I'll touch upon that in a moment. But for me, this was the right choice. So just a foam mattress is the way to go. So this basically concludes everything I was basically carrying, what I was wearing, what I had in my pack, and then obviously a lot more food than you actually see here. What I'd like to talk a little bit about next is the items I intentionally did not bring with me, and there's a few glaring omissions from this table that you're probably wondering about, so I'm going to touch on those topics soon. I do, however, notice from the baby monitor that the baby's awake, so I'm going to have to go and attend to him. So we'll be right back soon. So welcome to part 2 of this video with the unscheduled interruption. This section is to talk about the items of gear that I left behind. So what were the items that you typically expect to see on the kit list that didn't come with me, and what were some of the considerations behind it? First and foremost, let's talk about the phone. It's hard to imagine in this day and age to go anywhere without your mobile phone. I left mine behind and was glad to do so. First of all, I had the GoPro, so I knew I didn't need it from a camera's perspective. I know a lot of people try to bring their phone as a way to capture some of the memories. And then you do see people that are trying to use their phone to find a phone signal. First of all, you're not going to have much of a phone signal out there. There are a few points where you might be able to climb up a hill and get a bar or two to connect to home. But second of all, I felt like it was kind of in the spirit of the experience to be disconnected. They had those emotion box set up so that you could send a one-way communication out to loved ones, which I thought was a lovely touch. It was a really nice way to sort of share the experience along the way. But I really enjoyed the fact that I was disconnected, that you're there to just soak up the experience. You're there with your tent mates, with the people around you in that environment. It's really kind of something special. So personally, I would leave the phone behind unless you, of course, want to take it for a camera. But then bear in mind as well, these are quite heavy. My phone is about 280 grams, so that's a lot of goo gels that you could have taken instead of this. On the topic of goo gels and nourishment in general, I think the biggest glaring omission from my kit list has been cooking equipment. So I want to talk about that. I made the decision quite late on that I was going to eat cold. So my cooking pot, my little stove tin, Esbits, or burning blocks, all stayed behind. Primarily because of, there's no weight to these really. These are all titanium and very, very well robustly built. I was concerned first of all about the hassle of it all. It's kind of a faff to be lighting a fire and keeping the fire going, warming up your water out there in the desert with the wind and the sand blowing everywhere. Some people enjoy that ritual, and I fully respect that. I think that's part of the experience for a lot of people to be out there cooking in the desert. And it is, of course, a much more pleasant experience having a warm meal at the end of a grueling day out there. I sacrificed that for the convenience and ease and simplicity of just having cold food. It just meant that my meals would not fully hydrate, so you would be eating crunchy rice and crunchy pasta quite a bit. But it did the job. These are also quite a faff to keep clean. So once you get smoke going over these tins turn black, you get blackness over everything. All your other gear gets dirty. So it's a bit difficult to sort of keep these things clean and hygienic. And they do take up some space. You know, you can pack things into these, but ultimately they're going to be rattling around on day 5, day 6 when your pack gets a little bit lighter. They're going to be shaking about. So just a consideration. I think this is a real personal choice. I think the majority of people eat warm. I personally chose to leave that behind. Next, we have, and I think this is just a broader category altogether. This is sort of, how do I put this? Self-preservation, prevention, basically blister prevention stuff. So I did have the KT tape for chafing needs. Depending on your own experience with your shoes, with your running, with your feet, all the rest of it, you might need to bring blister prevention pads and tapes and so forth. And there's a lot of good guidance from the MDS crew in terms of what to avoid bringing and what you can be using. I left all of this stuff behind: the blister shield, the tape, the body glide. It all was going to carry extra weight, and I didn't need it in the end. There is a medical tent which you shouldn't consider having to rely on. If you do know already that you're going to be facing problems, it's good to be prepared for that. But in my instance, I figured that, you know what, this is maybe just a preparation that I haven't had to use before, so I didn't bring in this instance. One of the main considerations that I had was around the sleeping situation. So I showed you earlier the foam mat that I ended up using, which did an okay job. It wasn't the most comfortable. I think this is a very popular option for a lot of other participants. This particular model, I'm not even sure anymore. It's another Cedar Summit inflatable mattress. It comes with a really handy inflatable bag, so it's really easy to set up and use. And is much, much more comfortable than a foam mattress. You'll definitely get a lot more value out of this in terms of your recovery. The trade-off is the weight. I mean, it packs nice and small, and it is very comfortable, but I think it's 2 to 3 times as heavy as the foam mattress. So again, that's a personal consideration. If you want to sacrifice the weight and feel a little bit more on your shoulders to have a bit more of a comfortable recovery session at the end of the day, then this will definitely go in your favor. I saw plenty of people using inflatable mattresses. I have to say that there is always the risk of it getting punctured, so bring your puncture kit. It did happen to one of the guys in our tent, and we spent a good hour trying to go over every millimeter of his mattress until we finally found where the air was coming out of. But we did manage to recover that. The good news is, if it does happen, you've got plenty of time to find these holes and fix things, because you're not going to be doing a lot. So just that into consideration. I also had the inflatable pillow, which again I left behind. It doesn't weigh much, but grams are grams, and they all add up. So in the end, I used my pack as my pillow. This would have been a much more comfortable setup, but in the effort to go as minimalist as I was comfortably going, these all stayed behind. But that's it. Those are sort of the key things that probably you would expect to see on most people's kit lists that didn't end up coming with me. On the topic of what I would have brought, so items that I didn't bring that I could have used, to be honest, the only thing that I needed that I didn't have with me was a sewing kit, and that was only because I didn't anticipate that the garters were going to get torn. So, or the gaiters, sorry, not the garters. The gaiters I managed to puncture, I think, in 3 different locations. But for the rest, I had everything I needed. Oh, the only other thing that I didn't cover in all of this kit list, I think, was the toilet paper. So I had just camping roll toilet paper, which obviously you need to make sure you have sufficient supply of. But that's it. I think that covers basically everything that I have on my kit list. And this actually leads me to the last thing I wanted to talk about, which is a little bit my preparation and my planning. So I'm sure most of you, if you're looking at this video and making your own plans, have got some version of this. I have a whole workbook, effectively, that captures my itinerary, the training schedule, my food plan, my kit list, and a full inventory of all the kits. I'm not going to go into the contents of my workbook because, again, I'm not an expert in nutrition or anything like that, but just to give you an idea of how I set things up. I had a full overview of all my food options. I broke everything down in terms of weight, carbs, proteins, sodiums, fats, and then I could look at it day by day. What was I consuming? And then same thing goes for the kit overview. So I had everything broken up: the mandatory kit, the equipment, the race kits, toiletries and clothing. And on that note, I hope this has been helpful for you. If there's any questions or anything I can help to answer, please get in contact in the comments or DM me. If you're going out there for the first time, this is your first event, then I wish you the very best of luck. It's an incredible experience that you will take with you for the rest of your life. Enjoy the experience, soak it up. It's something really, really special, and the organization do a phenomenal job of making sure that everybody has a good time. Train well, prepare well, but then go out there and just enjoy every moment. It's really special. All the best. Bye.